Okay, I'm starting this tutorial, and it's a tutorial on talking about how to get started on the Google Docs assignment. And Google Docs is a word processing assignment, and we talked about that when we went over the requirement sheet. And so I'm starting, as you can tell, in my lobby that we're going to call it. And this is where you should start in the event that maybe you were absent and you're hearing this because you weren't in class. So if you need to pause and get to your use Google Drive, which you should have it on your toolbar, pause this and then come back. If you're already there, great. I'm going to walk you through how to get to a Google Doc, and I'm going to take you through the folders so that you're right where you need to be. Could you open a Google Doc from here, start the assignment, and then move it? Yeah, but like we've said in class, we're going to try to learn tricks where we can work smarter and not harder. So this is one of those. So when I'm in my Google Drive and I'm in the lobby, here are my folders. Here are the different rooms I can go into. And so I want to go in the seventh grade technology room. Now, this is where I might need you to pause because if you are absent, the only folder you probably have in here right now is for bell work. So if you're watching this because you were absent, hit pause and I need you to add a folder called units. Once you do that, you're going to enter the units folder. And again, if you're absent, I need you to pause because within the units folder, I need you to make a folder called Unit 1 Productivity. And remember that there is a poster on the wall that also says this Unit 1 Productivity. Once you've made that folder, we're going to click on it. And now we have one more set of folders. And we're going to do various things within the Google Docs within Unit 1. And so I need you to make a Google Docs folder. Once you do that, we're going to enter the Google Docs folder, and we are finally where we need to be. But now we're nice and organized, and we don't have to move anything. Okay, once you're ready, what we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm just going to walk you through how to bring up a Google Doc, and I'm going to walk right through the requirements because we know that the task for this assignment is to write a 2-paragraph essay where we need a picture, and we're going to talk about our favorite place. But there's also requirements that while maybe you've used a lot of while you've done Google Docs, word processing for other teachers, maybe they haven't required margins or a header or a footer. And so I'm going to walk you through how to set up everything so that you know how to do that. So from here, I want to come over to the left side and I want to hit new and I want to go down to Google Docs, double click that, and I'm going to get a blank document up. Please, 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 the first thing you want to do is stay organized, right? So I'm going to go up here by the Google Docs icon, and I'm going to click here, and it's going to highlight it. And I don't want it called Untitled Document. That doesn't mean anything to me. My suggestion to you is to call it whatever the assignment is. So I would say this is Google Docs, my favorite place. And now I know that this goes with this assignment. Could you just call it my favorite place? Could you just call it Google Docs? Yes, but my suggestion is to use this title. Okay, when I look down below, I have some things here that you may or may not know what they are. And then my cursor is here ready for me to type. Okay, let's look at the top real quick before we get into setting up the requirements that you have to have. Here's a toolbar, and these headings are going to be the same whether I'm in Google Docs or Google Forms or Google Sheets. What's going to be different is like maybe what I can do under each. So I'm in a document right now. So what I can do to edit here might be different than what I can do to edit in Forms. Or what I can insert here might be different than what I can insert in Google Sheets. So while what I can do with these might be a little bit different, the headings are going to look very similar as we work through the next few projects. Down here is a shortcuts bar. For instance, I have an undo and a redo, and if you just hover over them, you'll see that they tell you what the shortcut does. So if I just hover over them, I'm not clicking on them, it'll tell you what they do. So, but let me show you, like These are shortcuts for undo, redo. If I go to edit, here's my undo and my redo. And so you'll see some of these as I walk through, because what I want to do right now is I just want to look at what my options are, like what is here, in case I've never really done that. So if I click on File, I can do things like share, new, open, make a copy, move it, like say that I didn't go through my folders like we just did, and it's in the wrong place, I could move it. I could trash it if I want to for whatever particular reason. Page setup and print. Now you'll notice print is here under File. I have a shortcut print button right here. Edit, I can do things like undo and redo, but the buttons are here as well. I can paste things. Some of these things under here you will not use for the purpose of this assignment. But if you're comfortable with Google Docs, you could play around with some of these things as you're working. When I view, again, probably not much I'm going to use here. But again, if you're ahead or maybe you're done, you can go through and play with some of these things. But I don't think you'll need it for this assignment. For insert, you can do things like images, and we will absolutely do that. Not for this assignment, but you could add like a table, a drawing, a chart, etc., etc. Format, I'm going to have like paragraph styles, align and indent. But you're going to see like line spacing is here. I have a shortcut for line spacing right here. Tools, I have things like spelling. That's super helpful. I have a word count. Not for this assignment, but say that you get an assignment for a teacher and they say you can't have more than 500 words. So you would type whatever you have, highlight it. If you hit word count, it'll actually count the words for you. Dictionaries and other kinds of things on tools. Add-ons, again, it's here. Again, not something you're going to use for this assignment, but you're more than welcome to go play around with those if you're ahead and you're good with the assignment. Help, again, I don't think you'll need. But there is a help here if you're ever working on your own on something different. You'll notice that all changes are saved. Your saves, it automatically saves. So you don't need to hit a save button as you're working. That's a perk of Google Docs and working in Google Drive. So that's what is available to me here with the tools. Under here with the shortcuts, we already looked at undo and redo and print. This one's kind of cool. It's a paint format. If you wanted to ever play around with that, like if you ever wanted to bold various things, this is kind of a shortcut so you don't have to always highlight, hit bold. Go down to the next part, hit highlight. So you could play around with that, but that's a cool shortcut to have if you're doing something like that. You can zoom in and zoom out. 100, I can make it 125. I can make it real big. I can make it real small. I'm just going to leave it at 100. Normal text, you can change to these things, but I'm just going to leave it on normal text for the purpose of this assignment. Here is our font, and we are going to use this shortcut where I can have all kinds of fonts. But in this particular assignment, I'm asking for one specific one, so we'll walk through how to do that. You can make your font all different kinds of sizes, big, little. Again, we're going to have a specific size we have to do, so we'll see how to do that. I have bold. I can highlight something and bold it. I can highlight something and underline it, or italicize it. I can highlight and underline it. I can make my text color different. I can highlight. I can link. Image, here's a shortcut. Okay, that was up in the tools bar. Here I can left align, put something in the center, put something to the right, and this we'll use because I've asked you to do that. Skipping over the justify, you don't need it here. Here's line spacing, that's a shortcut. We're not going to use these next ones. You can make a numbered list, you can make a bulleted list, so on and so forth. And so these are some of the shortcuts. So again, I ask you, maybe once you get done and you're super satisfied with your assignment, you wanted to go back through and play with some of these things, please feel free to do that. Google Docs, word processing, this is a great place. Okay, we have our assignment labeled. And so now what I'm going to do through this tutorial is I'm going to go right down our checklist because there's a requirements checklist. There is no reason that everyone should not earn 25 points on this assignment. And so what you need to do is just be careful under requirements. After the heading where it says like margins, I just need to be careful and read what it specifically tells me to do. So we have to do things like margins and headers and footers. So while some of you might have used this word processor, Google Docs, maybe you haven't been assigned yet to have specific margins or to add a header or a footer. And so we're just going to walk through the checklist, and some of these things you're going to use and you'll know how to do. And I bet you might be able to use some of these things and your teacher will be super impressed. Number one says margins. And so we need to have, it says, using the page setup on the file menu, set the document margins to 1 inch on all sides. So I'm going to go to my page file, and then I have a page setup at the bottom. I'm going to click that. Page setup, I have all kinds of options. I can make it portrait, which makes it long like a paper. In landscape, I could make it go side to side, but not appropriate for writing a paper. So I'm going to keep it on portrait. This automatically defaults to the letter size, a regular piece of paper. We want to leave it there. Page color, I could make it different page colors, but for this assignment, and if you're typing something for language arts or social studies, unless they specify, they probably are looking for the color white. Now, margins, luckily here for me, is they're all 1 inch. And I need to have 1 inch margins. So I have portrait, it's up and down. I want it letter, I want it white. Everything's 1 inch. So I'm good to go. I'm just going to hit OK. So on my requirement sheet, margin's done. Now I need to add a header. So I'm going to go to the Insert tool. And down here, you will see that one of them, about a little bit more than halfway down, says header and page number. I'm going to go to header, and it gives you a key shortcut, but I'm just going to click on header. And now you'll see that this box, this area is my header. And so on my requirement sheet, it says using the insert menu, you need to create a header that includes your name aligned to the right. So the first thing I'm going to do one thing at a time. I'm just going to type my name. Okay, this direct key. And so now I have my name, and now I'm going to go to my shortcuts up here. This is in gray, so that means right now it's left aligned, which means everything I type is going to go along the left side of the page. If I click center, everything I type is going to go right in the center. If I hover over this, it's right justified, which means it's going to go to the right side. And I've been asked to print my name and align it to the right. So I don't want the left, I don't want center, I do want the right align. So my name is there, it's right aligned. I'm going to click out of it, the box is gone, done. Using the insert menu, that sounds familiar, we just did it. Create a footer that includes the page number aligned to the right. So I'm going to go back up to insert, I'm going to go back down to where it said header and page number, because if you hover over, you'll look that footer is the one underneath. So now I can add something, a footer, and that's going to come up at the bottom. Again, I get a box, and I'm not going to worry about alignment yet. The first thing I'm going to do is this will change page numbers. So if I had more than one page, I'm going to put page 1 because it's page 1, but say you went to a second page, it'll automatically change to the next number. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have my number, again, I'm going to go to the top because I don't want it left. I don't want it center. The directions said make it right justified. So just like I did with my header, it's now to the right. I'm going to click off. And now if I look, I have a header at the top and I have my page number at the bottom. Next on the checklist says spacing. Set the line spacing to double. I could either go to format and go to line spacing and go to double. Let me do that again. I could go to format, line spacing, and double. Or I could just come over here, where we just did the alignment, skip the justify, see this, and I hover over it, it says line spacing. I click on that, and I can click 1.5, but I'm going to hit double because that's what the directions told me. Now everything that I type will be double spaced. I don't have to worry about it. Next is font and size. If you remember when we went across the shortcuts, right here where you see Arial and I hover over it, that's my font, and here's my size. If I click on this down button, I'm going to get all kinds of options. Now, I've been asked to use Times New Roman. At the top, you'll see, well, all of these, if you go to the bar, are all alphabetical. If you see that some are at the top, why are these at the top? Because these are the ones I've most recently used. So I can either, if I've recently used Times New Roman, it's right here, but say I haven't. It's alphabetical, so I'm going to go to the T's, Times New Roman. And this is one you use a lot. It's not fancy, it's pretty plain, but a lot of teachers require that when you're writing formal papers. And so now Times New Roman is done. And if I continue reading on my requirements, it says point size or font size 12. When I go next door, right now I have 11. So look at all the different sizes. I could make it way big, I could make it way small, but the directions say 12. So I'm going to click on 12. And now if you look back, you'll see that I'm set Times New Roman and 12. Title. Type your title on the first line and use the format tool to change the text to bold and center. Okay. My cursor will start wherever the first part of my page is. So I'm going to arrow down just to show you, but I'm going to go back up. I can't go up any further, so this is the first line on the document. This is where I need to put my title. As a writer, my title is usually something that I come up with last after my writing. So for me, I'm just going to remind myself to put a title here. Please don't just call it my favorite place. Please be a little bit more creative. What I'm going to set is I'm going to tag this so that I know when I'm done writing and I can read what I wrote, I can come back and make a creative title. But for right now, I'm going to remind myself of a title. And then it says change the text to boldface. So if I highlight this and I go up here where I can bold, italicize, underline, I'm going to hit the B for bold. And now it's bolded. The last thing I need to do is it says make a title, bold it, and center it. So just like I did with my header, I'm going to come up here. I don't want it left, and it's left right now. I don't want it right. I want it center. And so now I have my title, and I'll know that when I get done, I'll just come back up here and get out and get rid of the word title and actually make a creative title. Now, I'm going to hit enter, and if you notice, I'm still centered and I'm still bold. Well, I don't want the rest of my paper in either, so I want to go back to the left because when you write on a piece of paper, you start at the left. I don't want it bolded, so see how it's gray right now? Whatever's gray is what's up, so I'm left justified. I don't want the bold, so I'm going to click on it, and now I'm no longer bolded. The next two requirements are my paragraphs, and right now, I haven't even thought about my paragraphs. I'm just trying to get my paper set up. So just like I did with title, I'm just going to type something to remind myself what I need. So I'm just going to put first paragraph, and I might even remind myself, I'm going to put describe favorite place, and I need 5 sentences. That'll remind me what I need to put here. And I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put, I need a second paragraph, and then I'm going to explain why it's my favorite. And again, I need 5 sentences minimum. Don't forget also that when you do paragraphs, you need to indent. So if I just make my cursor in front of the first word, if I look on my keyboard, you'll see a word called tab, third down on the left. So if I hit the word tab, now I'm indented. I'm going to do the same for my second paragraph. I'm going to go ahead and tab. And so now when I type up here, when I go to a second line, see how it's going to already, I'm indented and I'm good to go. It'll go to the left. So I'm just going to leave it formatted like that, so I'm good. So the last thing I have to remind myself of is to add an image. So I need to add a picture. So I'm just going to show you briefly how to add a picture. If I go to here, I can add an image, or if I went to insert an image. I can either upload one from my computer if I happen to have a picture of my favorite place. I can search the web. I could search my drive. I could search by URL. I could actually, well, you could take a picture of something. But for right now, I'm going to search the web. So if I do that, you'll see that I get a box here. It says search Google for images. Well, I told you that I'm going to write about New York. So for right now, I'm just going to make a reminder. So I'm just going to type in New York City, hit enter. And, ooh, so many choices. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this first one. I can get a different one later. And I'm just going to say insert. It's going to load. That's nice. Now, I'm probably not going to want it that big. So if I click right on the picture, I get these boxes. So these boxes, if I have my arrow, see how I just have like a line when it's off? When I have an arrow, that means it's ready to um, move. So if I just click and drag, I can drag it in, I can drag it out, I can drag it so I can make it, I can use these boxes, like I can make it skinnier, I can make it longer. As long as you see your arrows, it's ready to move. If I click on this, see how I get like a cross here, like an X? This little round button allows me to turn it. So I could actually turn my picture if I want. But for right now, I'm just going to leave this. So now I know I need to fix my title. I know where to start my first paragraph. I know where to start my second paragraph. This is a reminder that I need a picture somewhere. I might not want it here. Maybe I want it at the top. Maybe I want it at the bottom. Maybe I want to have it in the middle. But at least it's going to remind me, and even if I don't use this picture, that I need a picture. As far as requirements, the last thing I have in my sheet is proofread. Well, I don't have anything for anybody to proofread yet. So at this point, you are all set up. So my next suggestion to you, now that your paper is set up, is to stop and brainstorm your paragraphs. Think about how you're going to well, first of all, pick a favorite place. And then think about how you're going to describe your favorite place. And if you go back to the requirements page, by first paragraph, I mentioned things like maybe you think of senses, like what do you see, what do you hear, what do you taste, what do you touch, to describe. And then maybe you brainstorm. The second paragraph was explaining why. Some things I asked you to think about for why are, and you can go back to the direction sheet, think about what do you do when you're there, how it makes you feel, some of your memories, some of your hopes. I might brainstorm before I first start to type, whether you do that paper pencil, whether you brainstorm on this page and delete it when you're done, whether you make a different document that's a brainstorm. You're now to writing the content. And so have fun, and I'm sure looking forward to reading about your favorite places.